What's going on, you guys? It is time for another Photopea tutorial. We're gonna dive into this free online version of Photoshop. If you missed my first video, click up here, watch that video first, come back and watch this one, and we're gonna dive into Photopea a little bit more and learn some new stuff. So let's get to it. We're gonna create a new project again. So let's click right here on New Project to open this bad boy up. And let's give our project a name. So we'll call it Project 2, since this is our second attempt at diving into Photopea. And we're gonna come in here and we're going to adjust our width and height. Last time we did pixels, so just for fun, let's do inches this time. Let's do 8 inches by 8 inches at, let's say, 240 DPI or PPI, and go ahead and just click on Create. And that's gonna give us this white box here, and we are ready to start doing some stuff. You guys, today, we're gonna be talking about layers. Layers are one of the most powerful things you can be using when you're editing in Photopea or Photoshop. So let's take a quick look at the layers panel and talk about what's there, and then we'll show you how to make it all work. So this is our layers panel over here. We've got a bunch of things up here. We're not gonna worry about any of these too much today. And then some buttons down here at the bottom. This button right here is the button that creates a new layer. When I click on this, you can see up here in my layers panel, I had my background layer, and now I have a layer 1. And let's real quickly look at the difference between these two. The background layer is filled with white, and layer 1, if we zoom in real close to that, you can see it's filled with gray and white checkboxes. Those gray and white checkboxes mean that that layer is transparent, meaning it's completely see-through, it's invisible right now because there's nothing on it. So let's add some stuff to it. So I want you to create a new layer by clicking on this new layer button. This layer is gonna be called layer 1, but let's rename this by double clicking on it right here, and let's call this my brush layer. So now we're gonna go over to the brush tool in Photopea, and that's this tool right here. Its keyboard shortcut is the letter B, so if you can't find it, just press B. And if you put your cursor out over your canvas, you'll see a little tiny circle. If you wanna change the size of that circle, all you gotta do is right click with your mouse, and you can make the size of that circle bigger or smaller. Let's real quick, making sure we have our brush layer selected, let's do some brushing. So I'm gonna change the size, let's do somewhere around 200, doesn't really matter. And you'll notice that when I paint with this or draw with it, it's red. And the reason why is because my foreground color over here is red. If I want to change this color, I can do that by just clicking on this box and changing by using the color picker. Maybe I'll choose a green this time. And now my brush is green. So whatever your foreground color is, that's what color your brush will be. I want you to also notice that the edge of my brush here, so let me switch to my move tool. Notice the edge here has a very hard edge. That's because, back to the brush tool, keyboard shortcut B, when I right click on this, you can see my hardness is at 100%. Watch this as I lower this down to 0%. Look at what the edge of my brush looks like now. It has a very soft edge. You're gonna be able to do some pretty amazing things in Photoshop and Photopea with brushes, and being able to change between a hard edge and a soft edge is super important. So make sure you remember how to do this. That's just right clicking and changing the hardness from somewhere between 0 and 100. So here's what I want you to do with this information. I'm gonna Control Z or Command Z on a Mac to undo the brushes I made, but I'm gonna make sure I still have my brush layer and that my brush layer is selected. And I'm going to right click and make sure my hardness is at 0 to start. And I'm going to draw a brush here on this layer that has a very soft edge. One thing I want to point out really quickly, because this brush is on its own layer, I can come over here and grab my move tool and I can move this around. If I had put this on the background layer and I come in and drawn it, if I grab my move tool and try to move it, you see how it says this layer is locked? Photopea and Photoshop do not want you messing with the background layer. So I'm gonna undo that, and I just wanna make sure I'm working on my brush layer. I'm gonna move this over, like that. You'll also notice this little white down here at the bottom. That's because when I drew it like that, and that's the bottom of the canvas, so that's why we got that right there. Now I'm going to switch to back to my brush tool. I'm gonna change the color from green to, I don't really care, just choose a different color. Right click, and this time I want you to set your hardness to around 25%. And you don't have to be exact. Change the color again, and let's choose an orangish color. Right click, change the hardness to 50%. You can press escape or click out of the box to get that to go away. Change the color one more time. Let's go, how about grayish blue? Let's do 75% on this one. Ish, doesn't have to be exact. And then one more color change. And we'll do 100% on this one. So there you go. I have my 5 brushes. They're all on the brush layer. Let's make a new layer now. We're gonna create a new layer and we're gonna call this photo. So I'm gonna double click right here on the words layer 1. I'm gonna call it photo. And we're gonna upload a photo that we've taken and we're gonna add it to this canvas. And I'm gonna show you how to do that right now. Let's go to File here in Photopea and go to Open and find a photo that you would like to use. So I'm gonna go to my Photos folder. So here's the photo I wanna use. So I'm just gonna click on it here and press Open, and that's gonna load up. Now look up here at the top of the screen. I've got 2 tabs here. I've got my Photo tab, which is 1, and I've got my Project 2, which is where I got my beautiful brush work going on. What I need to do is I wanna get my photo from here into here. So let me show you how we're gonna do that. What I'm gonna do is come back to my Photo tab, and I'm going to grab my Move tool. Keyboard shortcut for that is V. And I'm gonna click on that, and I'm gonna click and drag this photo up, and I'm gonna go over to this Project 2 tab, and I'm gonna hold it there until it switches, and I'm gonna drag it down and let go. So you can see this photo is way too big. It fills up way too much of the canvas, so we need to make this smaller. So let's look in our layers panel. Let's make sure we have this new layer selected. So you can see when I dragged that photo over, it actually came over on its own layer, which is cool, but that also means we don't need this photo layer anymore, which is perfect because now I can show you how to delete a layer. You can either just right click on it and choose delete, or you can also just click on it and drag it down to this garbage can right here at the bottom of the layers panel. Let's come back to this background layer. Let's double click on this and let's rename this to photo. And now we need to resize this photo so that it's not so big. So what I'm gonna do is come over here to edit. I'm gonna choose Free Transform. This is one of my favorite tools. One thing that's super important about Free Transform, in Photopea, if you're not careful, you can ruin your photo. Photoshop has changed their settings so that you can't do what I'm about to show you can do in Photopea. You actually can do it in Photoshop, but it's extra work, so it's probably not gonna happen. Let's zoom out. So I'm gonna grab my zoom tool, and I'm just gonna click and drag to the left, which zooms me out. And then it looks like it went away, so I'm gonna come back, click on this photo layer, and I'm gonna go to Edit, Free Transform again. There it is. See that big, huge box around the photo? This is going to allow me to make my photo smaller or bigger, but in this case, we're gonna make it smaller. Now, here's what you have to be super, super careful about. And you guys, this is one of my biggest pet peeves. And if I ever see you do this, I might just yell at you or say something not very nice. When new photographers resize photos, a lot of times they'll just come in here and be like, all right, I got that to fit and it looks pretty great. This drives me insane. I hate it when new photographers do this. You can't just distort your image like that. Let's Control or Command Z to undo that. Let's do that. Edit, Free Transform again. The way you prevent this, again, if you're using Photoshop, you do not have to do this. If you drag from the corner in Photoshop, it's not going to allow you to distort your photo. But in Photopea, what you have to do is you have to take this finger right here. You have to hold down the Shift key with it. And then you got to click and drag, and you can only drag from the corner. If you drag from anywhere else, if you drag from the side or the top, you will still distort the photo. So only drag from the corner. And then I can click and drag this in, and Photopea is not letting me distort the photograph. I'm letting go with the mouse, but I'm still holding down the Shift key with my other finger. And now I'm gonna come to the other corner, and I'm gonna drag this one in. And then I'm gonna let go of the mouse first. If you let go of Shift first before you let go of the mouse, bad things happen, so don't do it. I'm actually still holding down Shift, even though I don't need to be. And now I'm gonna let go of Shift. Oh, and I was able to resize the photo without distorting it, and I'm going to press Enter to tell Photopea that I'm done with it. Let's zoom back in by clicking with the zoom tool and dragging to the right. Now watch this. This is something that's really cool that we can do because everything is on its own layer. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab this photo layer and I'm gonna drag it underneath my brush layer like that. And now you can see the photo is behind the brushes. Being able to reorganize and rearrange your layers is very powerful and is gonna ultimately lead us to being able to do some really, really cool things. Let's do one last thing just so we can do it, so we know we can do it. Let's make sure before we do it that we're on our photo layer. So make sure you've clicked on your photo layer. And let's come up here and go to Image, Adjustments, and let's choose a weird one. How about Invert? Let's do Invert and watch what happens when I click on Invert. It basically made that its opposite. It made it a negative version of itself, which can look really cool. I want to actually bring that back in front of brush just so I can see what it looks like. It actually looks kind of cool, but that's not what I want. I want you to put it behind your brush in this example. All right, so that's it, you guys. All we need to do now is save our work. Now, here's a little secret for you that you need to know. Anytime you're working with multiple layers and you think you might want to come back and make changes later on, you should always save as PSD, because saving as a PSD saves your layers. The problem with PSD files is you can't do anything with them other than editing them in Photopea or Photoshop. You can't upload them to the internet or put them on Facebook or MySpace or anything like that. So what I do in a situation like this is I save it as a PSD first, and then I also export as JPEG. And that way I have both. I have a copy that I can come back and edit later if I need to, and I also have a JPEG that I can upload to the internet and share with all my friends so they can see how cool I am. So I'm gonna save this as a PSD first, and it's just gonna wanna know where do you wanna save it. So I'll do that real quick. As always, pay attention to where you are saving things so that you can always find them later on. I'm gonna save that. And then I'm gonna come back here and go to File, Export as JPEG, and save this one. And this is the one I'll put on the internet if I wanted people to see what I've been working on. So I'll save this one as well. Again, making sure I'm paying attention to where I'm saving it. And that's it, everybody. That's all I want you to do today in Photopea. Again, we're just laying the groundwork. We're just learning how to do this stuff so that we can ultimately learn how to do more awesome things later on. Let me know if you have any questions or need help. If this video was helpful to you, please press the like button. Please subscribe to the channel, and please be awesome. See ya.